welcome, Immigrant Nation. Another week, another new episode. I'm your host, Aaron Deliosa, and this is An Immigrant's Life podcast. An Immigrant's Life on all the social media. You can reach me there, or you can email me at animmigrantslife@yahoo.com. If you or someone you know wants to come on the podcast and share their story, that's the best way to get in touch with me and the fastest way. All right? As always, every week, I want to thank you for listening and joining me here. I want to thank you as well if you have ever shared my podcast, liked my post, anything and everything that you have done to help me spread my message and what we're trying to do here. I appreciate you a lot. All right. I don't know if I have something to share with you this week. Just pretty much biking. I'm working on my tan. It's not that hard, but I'm working on it. I'm just enjoying summer, enjoying time with family. So I hope you're doing the same. And if you don't have that luxury or privilege, I hope, there's FaceTime. You can always FaceTime people, right? Hopefully. Anyways, I'm just blabbering here. Why don't we just talk about this week's episode? On today's episode, our guest takes us on a personal journey through navigating cultural expectations and finding strength in community support. We'll explore her relationship with her brown complexion, the importance of positive gender roles, motherhood, and the transformative power of storytelling. Stay tuned to learn more about the joy of connecting with our roots while building our community. And I always say this, but I really enjoy this episode so much. And I hope you do too. So let's not waste more time, shall we? Without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Today's guest is a blogger and a fellow podcaster. She's a woman with a unique perspective that can help you clear the clutter in your life. Everyone, please welcome Jo del Barrio.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. I love this. I love that we got to connect. As I don't know if you mentioned somewhere, but I came on your podcast, which I'm sure you're going to release soon. And I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on a podcast. It was good convo.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I feel like I just chismis the whole time.
That's what podcasts are for. Just free flowing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on, why don't you tell the Immigrant Nation where they can reach you or if you want to promote anything?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at jo.delbarrio, DELBARRIO. And then from there, you'll be able to link to the podcast, Her Shade Talks, on Spotify or Apple.
I love your podcast. I listen to it. I usually listen around like Wednesday, Thursday, when I'm just like, I just want to zoom in on work and I'm just like listening to a conversation.
Yeah, I do that too. Those days for me are Mondays and Tuesdays.
Tuesday, okay, Monday, Tuesday, all right. Yeah. I know some people like it on the weekend while they're doing chores.
I can't do chores. I'm a music person. I like, especially with chores, I have a specific playlist. I do like Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's so old school of me.
All the time, Earth, Wind, and Fire?
I mean, it's like a playlist, and then it plays other artists within the same category, right? So
why Earth, Wind, and Fire?
I think it's just nostalgic. So every Sunday, my dad would like blast the music, this genre of music, and then we would just clean the house, or he would fix stuff around the house. And it was like everyone's sign. I knew what was happening that day. As soon as I heard that music, I would have to wake up and be like, oh, I got to clean the room. I got to clean the kitchen. I know my mom's going to come in here and ask to help. So I think it's just nostalgic for me. So I now do it on Sundays. I put on the playlist and I clean up the whole house. It's kind of a ritual for me.
So now you like it. But when you were young, did you like it?
I like the music. It's Sunday and you want to sleep in, but I didn't like having to wake up and clean. So, but now I appreciate it as an adult because I have this kind of deep clean routine on a weekly basis.
Yeah, I love that too. That's what I'm trying to apply to my kids because
Hmm.
I tell them to do chores, whatever, and I make them make my bed.
Hmm. Oh, I love that.
And they get mad. Like, it's your bed, and you're gonna lie down on it anyway later. I'm like, no, I don't care. Do the bed. I'm going for discipline. Obviously, right now they hate it, and
Yeah.
I'm like hoping someday
Oh, yeah.
that when they get older, I'm like, you know what? I like my bed made.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I call the bed the centerpiece of the room. And if that part of the room is messy, then the whole room is messy.
Yeah, I used to make my own bed every morning because the
Uh-huh.
like you have to make your own bed and this and that, whatever, to make feel good and whatnot. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? I have slaves in the house. I'm gonna make them do.
Oh, yeah. If I called my daughter that, it would be like World War III in the house. No way. I could. Moms and daughters are, you cannot do that.
They don't gel. For
No,
now.
no. Yeah, yeah,
Till,
yeah.
but you get along most often.
Oh, yeah. She's 15 now. And man, our relationship has grown so much. So I think girls are different than boys to where they go through like a lot of emotional changes at first. And I think we're past that. I mean, not saying that we're perfectly past that, but she can tell me things about her friends, and she's like, the chismis, like the Filipinos say, the gossip, all her friends, and so it's been fun. It's really really good. I think this is the age where you start to see all of the teachings that the values that you instilled in them when they're little, and all of the growing pains that you guys went through. Like you start to see it like connect the dots a little bit, and it just feels good as a parent.
Yeah, I see that when they finally realize, like, mom actually knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Is that what your favorite part of being a mom?
I like, gosh, there's so much. I think there's something different in each phase, right? Like 10 and below, it's just so much fun. They're like your they're excited to do everything with you, right? And then teach them sports or cooking, whatever. They're just excited. So you get to try a lot of things. It's like your inner child comes out. Um, and then I would say, oh man, the preteen years is a little rocky because they're like looking now they're going to friends. And so I think as a parent, that time's a little bit more trying because it's trying to, I guess, it feels like you're losing your best friend. You're going from this like best friend change over to like now they're becoming this own person and they don't want you as much. So that was hard. Um, but I would say this age, I love it because it's just like this proud feeling. You just feel so proud. You're like all of that, those years of work as a parent, um, and all of the, frustrations and letting them go and be their own person. And you see this little person that you help make and how good they're doing in life. So yeah.
I completely understand that for sure.
Hmm.
Did you always want to be a mom?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I had a daughter very, very young.
How
So my
old or young?
I was 21. So
Not
not
bad.
super, super young,
You're
right?
not
Like
like a teen mom.
no, 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 not like MTV Teen Moms, no. But my parents had me young. They were like 18 and 19 or something like that. And so I thought it was fine. Like I wanted to start my own family young. And I did that. It's so funny. My daughter's grandmother, her dad's mom, still has the letter where I'm a letter person, by the way. I love to write. And she has a letter where I wrote her. I said, "Hey, we're gonna start a family. I just want to let you know." And she saved the letter. That's
That's
so
so
cute.
sweet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love that. Yeah, that generation, they don't know about email or anything.
No.
They keep.
Yeah.
But I'm also nostalgic. I still have letters from like when I was in high school.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I keep I'm a hoarder that way. I don't keep everything, but sentimental things I try to hold on to.
Yeah. Speaking of keeping on things, kids when they're growing up, they used to make art from school.
Oh yeah.
Do you keep everything?
Oh yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
do.
I do. Yeah. I have like this folder where I keep all of her proud schoolwork and all her grades. And then I also keep all her letters to Santa. I have all
Ah,
of those things. So when she's 18, we're gonna do the big Filipino thing. We're gonna do
the debut.
the debut, right? So I'm gonna put all of these little cute things into a scrapbook. I can't wait. Oh, I can't wait. It's gonna be so cute.
You're such a nerd. I love it.
I am. I am. I'm such a sentimental person.
Yeah, of course, you know. Where'd you get that from, mom or dad?
Uh, Dad, my dad's side. Me and my cousins on my dad's side are like that. My Lola, she's the most kind person ever.
What's her name?
Her name was Julieta. So it's interesting the timing of this. Her death anniversary was Thursday,
Oh,
just passed. So yeah, she was a big piece of my life. So the kindest person ever.
yeah. Thursday was what?
11th.
My grandpa's birthday was the 10th.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I love my Lola too. My Lola
Yeah.
too. I didn't have much time with him because I was young when he passed. But I
Hmm.
remember he used to bring me with him when he hangs out with his barkada and in the corner,
So
and they
fun.
just like that's where I get my wit from. Like if you say something to me, I will get back to you quick, you know. And I love that. What did you learn about Lola Julieta?
She okay, so she taught us with just love and kindness. She was never mean, never yelled, never like so she used to watch me and all of my cousins. She raised us very close because our parents were always working, right? So there would be times where she would have like eight of us at a time just running around the house. And I just remember just certain to one, like I grew up very close with my cousins. My dad has eight siblings, so each of his
There
siblings
was no
have
TV. There were no
no,
TV.
no, 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 no TV. There was only one TV, and my grandma would be watching General Hospital or some kind of teleserie on TFC. And so there's no TV. We had to figure it out, right? Like we would play school. Like in one room, there'd be like the girls playing school or making paper lumpias. And then in the other room, there'd be the boys and they'd be fighting. And then like I don't know how she did it. Like there's so many of us. But even if when we got into disputes and we fight, there was one thing me and my cousins always had to do. When we got into a really bad fight, she would make us face each other, and then we would have to apologize. Yeah, we would have to say I'm sorry, and then we would have to shake hands and hug and say I love you. Literally every time there was no walking away from that without doing that. And that's what she taught us. She taught us just to, love each other.
That's beautiful.
Those were her dying words actually. Like she said, just love. Just love each other. And that just forever sticks with us.
That's beautiful.
That's just who she was.
That's the main thing you learned from Lola.
Oh yeah. Families first. Always.
Always.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That one of the main Filipino values that you impart with your child?
Yeah. Yeah. Philip like family. But even beyond just blood, right? Like family is family. Like I have so much family that's not blood also. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Filipino is just the community and how close knit and the respect and the kindness.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it came from a small town, everyone knows
Mm-hmm.
everyone. And
Mm-hmm.
you have to take care of each other because the Del Barrios has, I don't know, they have the mangoes. We have the, I don't know, plants or whatever kind of plants. Like, yo,
Yeah.
you want mango? You got to go to Del Barrios. If you want like whatever, you got to go to Deliosas, you know?
You know what's so funny about that? That's so on point because my Lolo in the Philippines, he's still there. Uh, Whenever I'd go to the Philippines, I would always be picking mangoes from the tree with him. That is one of the core memories, like from the Philippines for me.
Yeah, I love that. Did you grow up in the States or did you immigrate?
No, so I grew up in the States. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California. My family immigrated. They all immigrated little by little in the 70s. My dad's the youngest of his siblings, right? So like when he immigrated, I believe he was middle school, high school age. So around teenage.
Have you spoke to him about his experiences moving around that time. I believe there was like some hate towards Filipinos around that time.
Yeah, so no, my dad did not. My dad's not one of those Filipino guys who talk a lot about the past, right? But his oldest sister, my tita, she has all the stories. I love sitting with her. I
They're the
remember one
best.
birthday, yeah, the best, right? She's one of those titas that carry all of the wallet pictures with her everywhere she goes in her purse. And so there was one birthday I had, I think it was like my 26th birthday. I ran into her in passing. This is when my Lola was still alive. And she just, you know how you can feel the niche. They just want to talk. Yeah, you know? And it's my birthday. I'm 26. I'm getting ready to go party, but I'm just like, oh, Tita wants to talk for sure. So I sat there on my 26th birthday and she just whipped out this whole like booklet of pictures. And I sat there and talked to her for like 3 hours. And
Wow.
I got to ask her all these questions. And it was so beautiful because I believe the next few years, she had a battle with cancer. So I didn't see her for a while. But it was just the most amazing way to spend my birthday because she just was whipping out these super old pictures that were in like not even color. It was like black and white pictures, like these old brown pictures. And she would just talk about the different stories of people coming over, how she left to go to, you know, the military from the Philippines, and that's how she came over to the States. It was just cool to learn because I had never heard that from my dad, you know?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I had the
Hmm.
opportunity last year when my uncle came to visit Canada, and
Hmm.
we had an opportunity to sit down, and he told me things like, where is these stories, bro? Like,
Yeah.
how come no one tells me this story, you know? I
Yeah.
found out that my great grandfather was the shaman of the town, and he used to have a book that he wrote everything about it.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to get the notebook. So far, not looking good. But
Oh
yeah, I
man.
was just like, and he wasn't even a good storyteller.
Hmm.
But the story is so colorful that was enough for me to like, wow, this is such a great story, and we need to
Yeah.
preserve it.
Yeah. No, I like the stories. I wish Filipinos were more open to telling all the stories, but not everyone's like that. I think it's just that generation. Yeah. So um I learned that my great grandmother, who I was named after, Juana, she came from a Hindu family. So
Oh no way!
I have Hindu blood. Her family were fish merchants, and so they migrated to the Philippines and settled near like this lake, and they sold fish. So
Wow.
yeah. So I always wondered, like my dad's side of the family has like a little bit more darker skin tone and kinky hair. And I just wondered like where that came from, and now we know, you know?
I love that word kinky because I remember when I first moved in Canada, I used that word, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" Because kinky is like a sexual thing,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you
I don't
know.
even think of it that way. That's so funny.
And somebody mentioned it to me. I'm like, no, it means like like curly hair, you know. Like
Yeah,
no,
like
it means
not
something else.
curly, but like textured, you know?
Yeah,
Like, yeah.
exactly. Have you ever thought of doing the 23andMe?
I have, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of a skeptical with that kind of stuff. You know, I'm just like, and then I'm just like, there's going to be these random cousins popping out and then asking for money. Like, I think that's like,
Oy, ate.
they're like, hey, you know, you're so rich in the States. And I'm like, no, I'm not, I promise.
My Instagram looks like I am, but
Right.
I got a lot of utangs, yo.
Right. No, this is debt California.
Yeah,
No.
I understand that. Like there's a mention that my grandfather on my
Hmm.
side on my mom's side is like there's a Chinese blood in there, and then on the other side the typical like Spanish blood. But my
Hmm.
dad tells me this because he could be. I get my storytelling from him. He's a bit of a he stretches the truth once in a while. He's saying that his grandfather, who he met, was like a white skinned man, like Spanish. I'm like, I don't know, dude, because I am pretty brown. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
yeah, so I don't know. I'm thinking about that. Speaking of brown collar, growing up in San Francisco, Was that a bigger problem, or were you so close to the Filipino community that it wasn't even an issue?
I feel like being brown as an Asian is always an issue,
Yeah.
right? Like anywhere.
Mud Asians.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, but it was still a thing in my family. So I started to reflect a little bit. My dad's side of the family is the darker side. And then all of their wives, all of the husband's wives, like all my in-laws are very, very fair-skinned. And I was just like, is this like an attractive thing or something? Because it's just so weird. It's so ebony and ivory.
It's planned.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. And then I remember growing up, my aunties will always say, "Hey, you got to drink your milk. It'll help your skin turn white. You don't want to look like your dad, like a
Oh
man."
my
And
God.
then, as a girl growing up, you're like, "I don't want to look like a man." Like so, I drank my milk. Or like whenever we went back to the Philippines, my mom would bring back like papaya soap or papaya lotion to like whiten my skin. And I'm like, now I look back like, oh my gosh, I was now I love my brown skin. But yeah, back then it was hard.
What took you to love your brown skin?
I think just America, seeing people trying to go tan all the
Yeah, dude.
time.
That's what I tell Filipinos. I'm like, yo, they're spending thousands, millions of dollars to get our
Uh-huh.
skin, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, like I'm gonna I think just brown skin age is better. Like
I mean, it
so
looks better.
I'm so grateful for my brown skin because everyone's like, oh, you don't even look so the age and how like you have a 15-year-old. I'm like, oh, maybe it's my skin.
Yeah, it helps obviously with the melanin, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, I get it. It's a cultural thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
based on, some people will say it's based on if you're light skinned, it means you're rich,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're light skinned, you're more attractive.
Yeah.
Bro, I always love my brown
Well,
skin.
I was doing a little bit of history because I've been learning more about like our Filipino culture. And I learned that apparently, like this we talk about how religious we are, right? The Spanish elites were the considered the elites in the church, right? So like that kind of permeated through the culture that they're the fair skin, they're the Spanish, they're blah blah blah. So they used to refer to, our native people as the negritos. And so that was like that term was frowned upon. And so it was like a colorism skin thing. So yeah, I think that's where it comes from. And then you think about Hollywood, right? Hollywood is like they say, it's very whitewashed, especially when you go over to other countries, like the big box movies and whatever, the famous stars, it's all whitewashed. So I think there's like that stardom like that people want to reach and
Yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah. But
yeah.
yeah, I've read about this because
Mhm.
I'm like what? What's up with the obsession with being light skinned? But
Mhm.
yes, yes, correct. That's one of the theory is because status, in a sense, like oh, because of the Spanish, they're the rich
Mhm.
ones, so it means you have to be light skinned. Also, another one is from the Chinese, because Filipino and
Mm.
Chinese. So in
Yep.
China, if you are light skinned, it means you don't work in the fields.
Yeah, I've heard
It
that. Uh-huh.
means you are rich.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
being fat.
Oh yeah, and like the Roman times, yeah.
Like if you're fat,
Uh-huh.
it means you have money, right?
Yeah, you have food, you have access to food.
Yeah,
Yep.
like in the Filipino, when you're fat, they'll call you malusog. It means like you're healthy. Which I'm like, no, you're not healthy. You're obese.
Yeah.
You know,
That's so funny.
and
Yeah,
then
no.
exactly. So were there a lot of pressure being a woman? Was
Oh
there a lot of
yeah.
pressure about you? Like you have
Oh
to
yeah.
sexy. You have to straight hairs,
Yeah, yeah,
black and
yeah.
straight.
There was always the terms like whenever my hair, because my hair when I was little was I think when I was younger, it was trying to figure out what pattern it was. So it'd be like one day very wild and one day not. And I just remember being called a bruja a lot by like the titas, like, oh, your hair, fix it, so bruja. And I'm just like, but I was also very much a tomboy, right? So like I didn't want to do my hair. I didn't want to like dress like a girl. I hated it. I hated it so much. I was very much like, I want to play basketball and I want to hang out with my cousins and you know. Um, but I got a lot of slack and then But then as soon as I started transforming into this girl and young lady, it's like, oh, you're so pretty, and it's like always about how you look. And it just felt like there's always this pressure about how you look. And then, you get older and you start to put on a little weight.
Oh boy.
And then it's just like, but Filipinos, like, we're so food based. Like, our culture is like surrounded around our food, I feel like. So when we get together, it's always this food, or like when you go over to your Lola's house, like the first thing they ask you is, did you eat? Go eat. And then there's no such thing as you can't be in a diet, but then also you can't be fat. You have to eat their food, but you can't be fat. And I'm just like, it's so confusing.
Yeah, you have to find the balance,
Yeah, yeah.
which is impossible.
It's impossible. Like, it's impossible. Like, on one hand, the first thing you're saying is go eat, and then you're asking why I'm not eating, and then you'll be like, why are you getting so fat?
My favorite line,
Oh
by the way,
man.
is, "Hey Joe, kamusta?" And they're like, "Tumaba ka."
Oh yeah. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that
yeah.
line. By the way, for
Uh-huh.
the ones that doesn't understand, it means like you got fat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always never so like abrasive though. It's always so like, oh, you get that. Like, so like in this like kind of passive aggressive tone, and you're just like, did I? You like question yourself.
Well, that's the mind fuck, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. The mind fuck of like, shoot, okay, well, let me go on a scale really quick.
In a way, it's good because he kind of shames you to be better,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Because it's not in like a way where you feel like attacked. It's more in a way that gets you thinking about yourself and like, oh, when is the last time I stepped on a scale? When's the last time I had vegetables? I don't
Yeah,
remember.
exactly. So, speaking of all this trauma that was imposed to you by your family and community,
Hmm.
how are you applying that and making it a positive towards your daughter?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, see, growing up with Eastern standards and values, it's like it's hard because I'm a first generation Filipino American, right? So it's like in your household, it's all Eastern values, Eastern standards. As soon as you step out of that door, it's Western. And it's like, it's just weird when you go out, and I'll just start here. Like, you go out and you see like these families like hugging each other, saying, I love you, saying, I'm so proud. And you're like riding and you're riding to school or in like a carpool or with your friends, and you see this and you're just like, what the? You, you guys get to say, I love you? I'm like, you get to say that you're not feeling well today? What the? And so, there's like this resentment that kind of starts in the back of your mind a little bit as you grow up, and then you trying to navigate your way in this Western society as an adult, and then you finally have kids, and then that's, I think, when it starts to come full circle a little bit, like all what you're grateful for, like you get to pick and choose about the good things, the kindness, the community from the Eastern values, and then applying it to like, how can I mix it to make it better with like some of the Western society values that you learned, right? So it's been interesting to navigate. I can say that it's still a work in progress. I did have to like not separate, but have conversations with my daughter about like, hey, how do you feel? I want to like just learning how to sit down with her and her feelings has been like something I had to learn how to do because I wasn't modeled that, right? So I had to like go to therapy and like talk about my feelings to learn how to identify my own feelings and sit with them and not bury myself in work or something. Because that was like my way. It was just like, oh, what are feelings? Just bury myself in work and then have fun. And then like 10 years later, you're just like, oh shoot, there's all this trauma that built up that I never addressed. And then you look at your kids, and that's like looking in a mirror, right? It's like, oh, I got to fix this for me so I can fix it for them. So I would say like therapy has definitely been something. And then it's good to see. I have a lot of other friends that are immigrants of different cultures, like Jamaican, Hispanic, like Mexican, um, different Caribbeans, but they also have families that are from there and are immigrants, and they're also first generation. So it's nice to know that it's not just Filipinos that go through this type of trauma. Like my friend who's Jamaican, she has gone through all the similar traumas. So it feels good to be seen and kind of talk to them about how they're coping too. So having that kind of community has helped me. We always have like these little sessions because we're both me and one of my best friends are both first generation Americans. And sometimes we're like dating where we have blended families and we're dating people who are American and their whole family's American. And we have to like go to these venting sessions with each other, like, oh, these American values. And we complain. And we're just like, they don't understand.
Yeah. You mentioned about therapy. When you went to therapy, did you go
Mhm.
to I don't know, like a person of color, a therapist?
That's so interesting you say that. So I tried at first because I had this stigma in my mind. I was like, a white therapist can never understand. Like I was very much like, there's no way she can understand or he. And so I very much looked for colored therapists at first. I never could find a match though, because my personality match is also very different. I'm very direct, I'm very open, um, also humorous, right? So I finally found a therapist and she's white and I love her. She's the best. Um, so it took a lot of trial and error. I would say I went through like five and then it's exhausting too. Like you got to get to know them, do a few sessions, and
It's
then
like dating.
yeah, it's like dating. It's like
Yeah.
dating. And then you get a little fatigued, you take a break and you kind of recoup. But it feels good to finally find someone that matches your style. There was a little bit of like a learning curve at first because she doesn't come from a cultural background like mine. I had to teach her, like, this is an experience that I went through as, with Eastern values. And but she's also very open-minded. So I think that style, it helped a lot of us like learning each other and then getting to do the work.
Yeah, 100%.
Hmm.
I see that. You mentioned that you moved to Dallas from San Francisco.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's the most biggest difference that you noticed?
Oh, it's a culture shock. There's no good Asian food here. Everyone says, like, you look on Google, right? You look on Google, you're like, oh yeah, it's 4.6 stars. Like, that's got to be good. And I'm like thinking, that's probably good for like Texas standards or Dallas standards, because coming from California, you have every kind of Asian food. And it's very specific. Like you'll have Cantonese, not just Chinese. It'll be like Cantonese food or Shanghai dumplings or like Burmese food, right? It's all very, even Ethiopian. Like there's a ton of Ethiopian food in the Bay Area. Here it's just like Chinese, Asian. There's never
Yeah.
like it's like, well, what kind of Chinese food is this? And
What,
it's usually
what a
like,
privilege.
I know. And then there's not really any Filipino food. I think there's a little bit of a community starting to pop up in like different areas here, but that itself has been a struggle. I did find that if I want to find more of a diverse community, go to the one Catholic church in your town. Yeah.
That's where
Yeah,
the good food is.
that's where the diversity of cultures, I think all the immigrants are, because I think the South, it's very Christian. So not a lot of Catholics. I mean, Hispanics for sure. So like Mexicans in the area are Catholics. Not that I'm super religious, but I have found that when I do go to church here and go to a Catholic church, that's where I find most of the immigrant families.
Oh, so you go to church?
Like on Christmas and
So you do
Easter.
not go to church, all right?
I still talk to God. I pray in the
Yeah.
car. I pray in the car to make sure I'm safe and I'm protected. I do that.
You don't just talk to him or her whenever you need him or her, right?
Well, I say thank you a lot
That's a good
for
thing.
good things.
Yeah.
It's not one-sided mostly.
I'm assuming you were raised Catholic.
I was very, very, very much raised Catholic. My grandma Julieta, every day before she went to bed, she did the rosary. And then whenever someone passes in our family, we have the 9 days,
In 9 days and then
the
40 days. Yeah.
So we're very, I think we're very like spiritual because we even do before like Catholic, before the colonism and whatever, we still do the Black Madonna. Have you heard of that? The traveling
Yeah.
Black Madonna?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that because it's just it takes it to the root of prayer. Like it takes it to the just praying on this, praying for the sick, praying for the dead, and then coming together and feasting. And that is like, that's what I love about, the power of prayer. Everything else is like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I think it was last week that I was somebody asked, kind of question my like. I identify as a Catholic,
Yeah.
but I'm more of like whatever, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably Buddhist than Catholic,
Yeah. 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 Uh-huh.
but I still do have my rosary. I do my cross. When I
Mm-hmm.
pray the Catholic way and whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
somebody's asking me like, "Oh, you're Filipino, you're Catholic." I said, "Yeah, but we have different ways." You know,
Yeah.
we still have our
Yeah.
anitos. You
Uh-huh.
know, we still have like when we drink, when we open a like a bottle of whiskey or whatever, we throw a little bit on the ground
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
they say for the devil or for the spirits. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we
Uh-huh.
still have that thing. So they didn't really 100% colonize us in that way. We still have
Right.
that little things on the side, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I actually I went through this journey. I think it was 2016, 2017. So my daughter's father passed away. It was a very, very hard time for us. And then I think, but beyond that, there was just like a bunch of deaths that happened in the family. And and then I just went through this really, really dark journey. I questioned my faith a lot. My cousin recommended her. So my cousin she grew up very Catholic like us, but her husband is Buddhist. And she recommended this book called, Anatomy of the Spirit. So good. So what it does is it takes all the stories, these spiritual stories, and it aligns the different religions and the similarities of them. And it was just really, really cool to see because at the time I was in college and finishing my courses. And I went through a world religion class around that same time. And just seeing all the similarities between the different religions just made me feel, it actually brought me back to my faith, right? Because it kind of just opened my eyes to um, just the teachings, like the basic teachings of the core beliefs of the religion. Like, like forgiveness and love and kindness and just your, I guess, basic human values
Yeah,
of
just be
it.
kind to others.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
exactly.
golden rule, you know, like treat
Mm-hmm.
others like how you want to be treated.
Yeah. Like
Basic.
I very much believe in the Ten Commandments, right? Like for sure. That those are like, I think that's the moral compass at which I live my day to day, I would say. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard of, in Peru, they have, they have a religion that kind of meshes Catholicism with like their ancient some of their Mayan values. It's really cool. I traveled there once and I learned about it during that dark time and I was trying to like find my way back to my faith and it was cool to learn about that.
Yeah. And was he a boyfriend or a husband?
Oh, my partner, my
A
boyfriend. Yeah.
partner? When
Uh-huh.
he passed and you go into those darkness, what kept you going?
My daughter. It's like I had to, like she was 6. Well, him and I were not no longer together at the time, but we were co-parenting and he was a great dad to her. We were not good together, and that's okay. But
Good friends.
yeah, it was rough. It took a while to get back to being good friends, but we were just starting to be good friends again when he passed. He was trying to turn his life around. He was actually the following week was going to start his new construction job, and everybody was so proud of him. So it was unfortunate, but it was tough, man. It was tough. I went through a lot of series of dark things that happened. It was that happened, and then the month during that same time, my company that was with for 8 years went through this huge layoff, and so like they laid off like 8,000 people, right? So um, yeah, it was massive, massive, massive. And my work was like my family. We were very close because I was there for so long, right? So we were very, very close. Um, and then I think my great aunt passed a few months after that. It was just like one after another. My best friend, his sister passed on Christmas, and then his dad passed the following February. So it was hard. And that was like my best friend since I was 11. And I think I was like forced into like take time off work. Like God was saying, like, that layoff at work needed to happen. You needed to like take time off work because I was one of those people that would just bury myself in work to get through whatever it was. But I had to like bounce back for my daughter, and it was very difficult because I feel like I wasn't able to process a lot of the trauma that her dad and I went through. And I had to just bury that even, right? To be there for my daughter. I was just like, all right, well, we can't talk about that. That's the past. And so just trying to learn how to grieve properly I was in my mid 20s, my late 20s. So I didn't have the tools. It was interesting. And that's when I learned like I really need to get help for me so that I can help my daughter through this time because I didn't have those emotional tools that I was taught growing up.
Mm-hmm. Was there someone that you leaned on?
Oh yeah, I think that's where I pride myself in having those Filipino values and community. Like my cousins all ran to help, like giving me breaks, checking in, um, helping with my daughter too when I wasn't emotionally capable to be there for her. So my cousins definitely stepped in. Luckily, I was living in San Francisco and I had a lot more of them around. And then I definitely had friends too that were long time friends that would check in. Some of them would drive up and take a hike with me outside. And it was one of those times I think where everyone stepped up and however they could. So it was
Mm-hmm.
beautiful.
Yeah. How did you stay positive towards your daughter during those times?
Oh, that was hard, man. That was very hard. I think I just felt for her, I just felt like just putting myself in her shoes and the loss. I still haven't lost a parent. I lost my grandmother, and that was the closest thing I can like align what she was going to through. And my grandmother was the biggest part of my life. Like I was with her almost every day. Um, and so I just knew how crushed she feel. But even on the side of like that's her dad. So like her not just thinking in my head like her like there's just this void that she'll always have like I don't have a dad. I don't have a dad, like and thinking about even her debut when she's 18, the father-daughter dance. Like obviously like my dad will probably do that for her or whomever, but I'm sure that's always going to be in the back of her mind. I started to notice like we would go on trips and every time she would see a dad with a kid, you would just see the look on her face. It would just change. She wouldn't want to talk about it because she was raised very introverted, right? So she had journals. I would get her a journal every few months. So yeah, it really impacted her. She internalized it a lot. So I was like, all right, let's try therapy. That's when we were like, we gotta talk about this in like a safe setting.
That's beautiful. And she approached and embraced the therapy as expected, or?
That was hard to, because it's just like growing up Asian, you don't learn how to talk about the hard feelings. So that was a process. That was definitely a process growing up. Because by that time she was already 6, 7, 8, right? And it was like it was like she would want to try it and then she'd meet someone, she didn't like them, and then we'd be like she didn't want to do it anymore. It was like this back and forth for a really, really long time until we found someone that was like a match.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
What's your dream for her?
Oh, my dream for her is to just be confident in the world as a woman because navigating as a woman in this society takes a lot of confidence and and because that as a woman, there's so many things that tell us that we can't do stuff, you know? And instead of operating from
Oh, I
that
don't know,
fear,
but I'm
oh
sure.
well, yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of things in society that tells us we can't do stuff or we're not supposed to do stuff or we're too feminine for stuff or whatever, So um yeah, there's just everything telling us that our role is supposed to be XYZ. But I just want her to have the confidence to be whoever she wants to be and achieve whatever she wants to. on her own terms, not however society wants her to do, not when, not because she's a woman, not because she's, too feminine or whatever. So I just want her to be who she is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You
Hmm.
mentioned about like being independent, a bit independent woman and all this stuff. You know how in the Philippines we have like gender roles,
Yeah.
but in not in a toxic way,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Hmm.
How do you apply that to yourself and to your daughter that there are gender roles, but positive
Yeah.
gender roles?
Yeah. No, I think I've had to learn it. Well, my role has been kind of skewed in the experience in a way where I've been the only gender in my daughter's life a lot of the time, right? So I've had to wear many hats, I would say, for a really, really long time to where it was like a traumatic, like almost this like little trauma in the back of my mind. And I had to get over that. Once I got into a relationship, I had to tell myself, like, you got to let this man be a man and let him help you because anytime there would be an issue, my trauma response would be like, I'll just do it, because I've been doing everything by myself for so long. So I had to really let a man step into his role to provide and trust that he would be able to do that. And so that I can model that for my daughter, like nurturing. I thrive in nurturing, all the nurturing and the cooking. I love it. I love it. I love it. Helping you do whatever, helping you be better, helping you learn. That's where I think that as a Filipino woman, that's where my greatness lies. And I've learned to own that. But then the other side is learning to ask for help in the stuff where I'm not so great. And I know the man in the household can take on. So I'm still learning that and I'm still not there 100% perfect. But I think that is the balance that I'm starting to come to. It feels really good and model that I think with kids, is everything's like modeling it in the household, and then circling back because we're not perfect, circling back when we make mistakes and say, hey, that I don't think I modeled that right for you. And I hope that you understand that we just made a mistake.
Yeah, learn to say
Yeah.
sorry. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do that. Growing up, you thought Dad was Superman.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You think they're perfect and whatnot. That's one thing I made sure to my kids. Like, dude, I am not Superman. Also,
Uh-huh.
I made a lot of mistakes,
Oh yeah.
and I tell them my mistakes, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm telling you this not because I'm bragging or anything, or
Mm-hmm.
to copy it. No, I want you to learn from it.
Yeah. Oh
You
yeah.
know.
I tell that to my daughter now, like when she's able to, like, mommy makes mistakes, I'm not perfect. And so I ask her all the time, like, hey, now I'm starting to take the gentle parenting approach. That's a new term. Like, hey, like I'm having a bad day because I'm whatever, experiencing whatever. Like, if you need me to step out of that and you need me for anything, please let me know. So I try to communicate that as much as possible because I need her to know that I'm human, and I think that has helped us become closer even.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I don't like
Mhm.
soft parenting because it's so hard.
It is, I feel like there's
I like
a
just like beat them up. That's it. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm joking.
I think like it's just the stages, the phases, right? Especially for teenage girls. It's like right now we're in the whole like openness and teaching each other how to like communicate better as like maturing. Of course, when she was younger and she did something, I'm like, you better not. You better not. I remember when she was like with her grandparents and she like kind of threw a fit because they didn't want to buy her a toy. My mom put her on FaceTime with me. And I said, you better stop it before I come down there and make you stop it. But she was super little, right? So she was just so I think there's a phase for everything. So we're just in this like kind of calmer and talk phase, which is
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. I spoke to my my eldest, a few weeks ago, and I was like, "Yo, dude, I want to thank you, cause you,
Weird that we're doing this and our parents never thanked us for
are
anything.
you crazy? The day that ever happens, the day like the pigs fly or something, you know."
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
yeah, so I went up there and I said, "Yo, I want to thank you, dude. You're like, you allowed me to grow."
I love that.
as a dad and as a man?
Yeah.
Because you went through shit with me, buddy.
Oh man. Speaking of that, I'm getting ready to, so my daughter's getting ready to finish her freshman year. I'm so proud of her, by the way. She's just killing it. So, but like I'm one of those cheesy parents where I'm gonna get her a card and tell her how proud I am. I'm probably gonna write a whole essay inside and be like, thank you for the last year. We made it. And, and just because I've grown, right? I've grown so much. I like all of these things that I'm learning how to do is because I want to be a better mother for her, but also it's helping become a better person in the world, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I love it. I love it. Let's talk about your podcast, Her Sage Talks
Yeah.
podcast.
hmm
What made you want to start your podcast?
So, I hate social media, but I hate it and love it. Let me just say that. I don't like it because for a long time you just see all the I think it was during the pandemic and lockdown. You're just seeing everybody living their best lives. You don't ever see the real, right? The behind the scenes. Like people pick and choose what to post, and I'm guilty of that too. Um, but I think there was a time where I really craved the deeper conversations. Like very much as an introvert, I can have like this kind of conversation all day, right? We can talk forever and talk about the deepest, darkest things, whatever we want to talk about. In bigger settings on social media, I was just like, I didn't see it. It was hard to find it. And I had a mentor, and so I wanted to blog. I had a mentor. I reached out to him. I asked if he would be my mentor for just from a writing aspect, right? He had published a few books and he also had a podcast. And we got to talking because he was like, "Why do you want to do this?" And I was like, "I just want to help women navigate like these darker, deeper, things and clear the air. Because there's a lot of things that women don't go through, like infertility, miscarriages, PMDD. I have PMDD. That's a thing that had to learn how to navigate behind the scenes. And so PMDD often gets misdiagnosed in women as like ADHD or depression or people say it's just PMS, but it's so much deeper. So like um, about 10 to 14 days before your menstrual cycle, you go through these hormone influxes and you're mentally like triggered by the hormone, like you're just hypersensitive and you go through these different mental symptoms. Like you can go experience like anxiety and depression, and sometimes even some women experience suicidal ideation. Like 1 in 20 women experience this, but no one's ever talked about it. So 1 in 20 women, like they experience this, right? Like, and but no one ever talks about it. No one ever wants to like admit that 3 days out of the month I want to kill myself, right? Like no one's ever going to say that. But they're going to go on Instagram and post the brunches and the cute pictures and you know what I mean? And so I just wanted to start a podcast to kind of bring people into this setting, and whoever wants to listen and wants to listen on their own time, like we're here for you. You're not alone. So that's essentially what it's for. There's just so many nuances, I think, that I've experienced, that my friends experience. And it's not just for women, like there are other things too. Like we talk about hustle culture and the pressures of hustle culture and being productive and what that does to you mentally, like no rest, right? Like that's not healthy. But the social media is saying that like, no, you gotta go, you gotta go, you gotta go. And it's like,
Yeah, you have to start your own business. I'm like, bro, no,
yeah,
no,
start your
I
own
just want to
business,
chill,
be your own
bro.
boss. Like, okay, like the top 10 person in Facebook's probably making more than the CEO of this small business. Like understand who you are and who you want to be in the world, not what social media is telling you. And so that's why I wanted to start the podcast. I just wanted to bring people on, share their perspectives, and hopefully people can understand. Like I have a lot of entrepreneurs on there. I have a lot of business coaches, spiritual healers, what have you. So even just, people just sharing their story as a mother, like there's just a lot on there that I think people can learn from and resonate
Amazing.
with.
How do you
Mhm.
manage to have deep talks with people that you just met?
I'm good at asking questions. Uh, so in my professional life, I was an executive writer. And I learned how to ask executive questions, just get them thinking and sharing from a live perspective and from a recorded perspective. I've done both, right? So I think I just taken a page of out of that book and have applied it to my podcast. But also the people that are on my show want to talk. They want to talk about these things, right? We'll share a topic that we think will be best to talk about, or and then eventually the conversations usually evolve.
Yeah, it's a conversation. It's not like
Hmm.
planned, you know.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's why sometimes like guests ask me like, "Oh, do you have prepared questions?" I say, "I do prepare because I'm retarded. I don't really like. I can't think of a question, you know."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Sometimes it's just to get it started too, right?
yeah,
Like just to get the wheels turning.
yeah. But most of the time, I just listen to the guest and like, "Oh, she mentioned that," and or he mentioned
Hmm.
that. Then I'm like, "Okay, I want to ask about that," you know.
Yeah, yeah. The conversation will evolve. Like they'll say something, and it's just about active listening, I think, as especially as the interviewer, right? It's active listening and like, oh wow, that's cool. I didn't know that. But I also learn a lot from these podcasts because I have coaches and entrepreneurs and spiritual healers that come on my show. I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know that. That's so cool. I'm gonna try that in my life, you know?
Yeah, I liked what you said earlier that you work hustle culture that you work, and then you never
Hmm.
rest.
Hmm.
You know those people that when they rest, they feel like they're not doing anything, they're not worth it.
Yep.
I've learned
Yep.
that that's apparently based on trauma
Yep.
because
Yeah.
you are basing your worth through your work.
That's so funny you said that. I just started doing this work with my therapist recently. I told her, I was like, hey, I've been journaling a lot. And I think a trigger for me is like now that my daughter's older and doesn't need me, or, I do stuff and it feels like it's not being seen or recognized. And I think that I tie my self-worth as a woman to how much I can provide for my partner or for my kids, like, and when it's not received well, it triggers me. It's so interesting. So I'm working on that as a person, like not tying my self-worth to my productivity, my career, to my business, because at the end of the day, like it's like trying to sift through that. Yeah, like it's so mind-blowing to put your worth on something else external.
I think it's easier for men to let go of that
Hmm.
idea than women
Yeah, yeah.
because men are very stupid. We just like do the
It's
job and then we
it's how
move
we're
on.
socialized. It's how we're
Yeah.
socialized. I actually thought about that too when I was doing that work with my therapist. I even look when you watch those old movies about like the 1800s or whatever. Remember how like girls were like married off? And growing up, they were told that they had to like play the piano or learn an instrument or sing or learn how to knit or sew, whatever, embroider. And if they didn't know how to do those things, they were like a good woman or something. And you're just like, what? That's how it was? That's crazy. And that's how we were socialized. Like that's our worth is like how we look, we're beautiful. Are we attractive to the men? And then, what are our skills in the household? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So,
funny you mentioned that the piano because a former guest she was thought to be a classical pianist because apparently it's a good thing to be for a future wife.
mhm.
And then in the end, they don't want her to do piano because she was so good. And now she's like crushing, like she's all over the world, performing. And I
Yeah.
never understood that. It's the idea of, I mean, I do now, but
Mhm.
before I was like, so you want a woman to crush it, be
Right.
educated, be this and that. And then after being educated, you tell her, go back to the kitchen and cook. Like,
Crazy. I think that's been the hardest thing about me dating, honestly. And my friends tell me that a lot because I'm so driven as a woman. And then, it, I've dated a lot of men that wanted like that woman, like, oh, you're so cool, you're so driven, you're so blah, 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 blah. And, we'd be like this power couple together. And as a woman, you're so excited, like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah, power couple for sure. Let's do it. And then you finally get into a serious relationship with someone and they're like almost threatened and they just want you to do the house stuff. And I'm just like, wait, but I thought we were going to be a power couple. Is that what that means to you? Like, I thought we were going to be building businesses and empires together, like, not you just putting me in the kitchen and cleaning the house. Like, yeah, I'll do that too, for sure, because I don't like a dirty house and I like to cook. But also, I need you help to help around the house and do the trash and fixing stuff and whatever, whatever, so that we can build this empire together. Like, it's just so weird. Like, why would you, as a man, want a woman that checks all those boxes of being a mogul or being this great woman, and then you just like, that's all you expect of her? It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. Patrice O'Neill, the comedian, has a joke about this that you dated a great white shark because it's a cool thing. But when you started dating and being together, actually, you wanted a dolphin. No, dude, I'm a great white shark. I'm a
Right.
kill, you know?
Right.
You
Yeah.
cannot expect me to be a dolphin all of a sudden,
Uh-huh.
and then you expect yourself to still fall in love with me because you did not fall in love with a dolphin. You fell in love with a great
Yeah.
white shark.
And it's so interesting too, because like women get exhausted. Like you want us to be the great white shark and do all the great white shark things in the business or whatever in our career. But then you also want us to do majority of the household. Like that's not cool. Like that's not fair. That's not cool. It's exhausting, And so it's just like that. I think that's happened in most of my previous relationships is like, it's just the getting burnt out. And I think I'm very upfront about like, hey, what are the roles that you expect in the household? Because I rest. I like my sleep. I rest. I take
Mhm.
Sundays off. So
Yeah. Yeah. Have you noticed any recurring themes in your conversations with new people on your podcast?
yeah, I think everybody is in this time of, I call it the coming to self. And I feel like that happened for a lot of people. And I hate to say it, and everything's about the pandemic, but that's just the phase that we are in life. But I think that a lot of people have pivoted and in their business or in their lives or in their careers. And it's a coming to self moment of, the way people have been telling people to do things their entire lives is not how they want to do it. I'm not saying that's everybody, but that has been a common theme in, I think, my podcast. People are learning to nourish themselves, feed themselves, do what feels right for themselves, whether it be resting on Sundays or, working remote jobs and not taking an office job or starting a business that isn't a multi-billion dollar business, but it doesn't feel like work for them because they enjoy it. You know what I mean? Or saying no to clients that don't align with their values. So, you know,
Yeah, I completely see that. How has your podcast experience changed the view towards human connection?
oh man, it's been cool. I've met so many people, I think that I don't even know in person, but I've just built this community of people that are very good at things and in their professional whatever coaching skills. And I've also like, I guess one example is I interviewed this woman. She's in Colombia, and she wrote a children's book called Wandering Wally, and she's in the travel industry. And we talk a lot of we have so much in common, and it's just so cool to connect with people that you don't even know from halfway across the world, and you have all of this stuff in common. It's been really cool. I love
Yeah,
it, honestly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the best. I love it too. Yeah,
Hmm.
like us.
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
don't know each other, and then like
Right.
we hang out, and I'm grateful for that. Like my first
Hmm.
ever guest on the podcast, she was in Brazil when we
Hmm.
connected, and to this day we still talk. And I like what you said too. I think I'm pivoting here that you created this community, and
Yeah.
one of my favorite part of having this quote unquote community is connecting each other,
Yeah.
connecting people. There have
Uh-huh.
previous guests that have collaborated on projects or help each other out, and I just love
Hmm.
that. Or they even met in person.
Yeah. I'm actually looking forward to traveling to Colombia one day and like connecting with her. It's really, really cool. And as an introvert, it's harder for me to have these kinds of conversations just walking on the street, to run my errands. It's like I can have these conversations with my friends who I might already know, but it's cool to have it with people that I don't know to gain new perspective.
Yeah, that's the main key. Is that your
Hmm.
favorite part of having a
Oh
podcast?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love to learn. I'm so open-minded. Like I just love to hear different perspectives and share thoughts and exchange ideas. It's I think where I thrive the most.
Joe, I think we're
Yeah.
there. This has been
Yeah.
such a great conversation. I really do appreciate it.
Yes, it has. Thank you so, so, so much.
Of
This has
course.
been, these are so refreshing. I love doing these.
Oh,
So,
awesome. Before we let you go, do you have any last remarks or anything you'd like to say or add?
first, thank you for coming on Her Sage Talks. You guys can look out for Erin's episode on Her Sage Talks soon. That will be released in a few weeks, and catch you on the next one.
Amazing. Joe, thank you so much and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you again, Joe, for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.